Okay, so for this week's guitar lesson, we have a standalone blues. It's played fingerstyle blues, and it's standard tuning. You can play this on an acoustic or electric guitar, and you can play this by yourself. You don't need a jam track. You don't have to go bug somebody to play music with you. This is kind of the best way to play and the best way to practice. And what's cool about this style is you can totally improvise in this style. In fact, this composition was, I sat down and hit the record button, and I played several versions. Some of them had mistakes in them, but they were all a little different, and I was just improvising. And I thought I'd pick one that sounded pretty good and then sort of break that down and explain it. So that's what we're going to do in this lesson. I'm going to show you not only how to play it, but I'm going to explain where all the notes come from so that you can see which chord shapes I'm playing out of. And I hope that this just sparks a lot of ideas for either creating this style of playing or just using these ideas when you're improvising. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we'll go through the first half. If you'd like to join us for the second half, download the tab PDF file. Also have access to the on-screen tab viewer, which has the tab and the video on the screen at the same time. You can slow down playback, you can loop sections. It's a great way to learn. There's no talking, so if you just want to learn the composition, that's a really good way to do it. So you can get all of those extra materials for this lesson by going to activemelody.com, go to the weekly lessons page, and do a search for EP599. Okay, so this song is played in the key of E, and it's really just three chords. It's a 1-4-5 chord progression. Our 1 chord is an E, our 4 chord is an A, and our 5 chord is a B, or a B7. Now, why did I pick the key of E? Well, when it comes to standalone solo guitar stuff, you'll notice that a lot of songs are in the key of E or the key of A, especially blues songs. And the reason for that is pretty simple. It's because of your open strings. When I'm doing this bass thing like this, I don't have to fret that note. My hand is free to play wherever I want. So I'm not locked into a region. If I was fretting that note, I would be locked into that area because my hand can't stretch any further. So that's one big reason. So when I'm playing, for the 1 chord, it's just an open E string. When I'm playing for the 4 chord, which is our A, I can just thump the 5th string now, and I can... And then I can go back to the E for the 1 chord. Now when it comes to the 5 chord, I am going to have to fret that note. So for that B note, I have kind of two options if we're thinking about this range of that note anyway. I can either play the 2nd fret 5th string, or I can play that same note up here on the 7th fret 6th string. But just remember, when you're playing a fretted note, you're locked into that region. Or down here. So let's listen to this first part, which has a little intro bit, Robert Johnson style. We'll talk about what's going on and we'll break it down. So we're going to start off with this classic kind of Robert Johnson style turnaround, or it's an intro. You can use it either way. And I love this because once you can see this and relate it to your chord shape, you can use this in any key. This is not limited to the key of E. So we're going to start off with this shape, and this is the same shape as your D7 chord in first position. If you think of that little sort of triangle shape, if you slide that up a couple of frets, you're in position to be playing this. Now that would represent your E7. It does not have an E note in it, but it's got the other notes from that E7 chord. It's got your flat 7 in there. And so when you play the bass note, which actually is an E, then when you hear it together, you can definitely hear that E7 chord. And what's cool about this little shape is you can walk it down again, and then play your full E chord like the way that you know it in first position. And so that's the idea behind that intro. Now connect that in your mind back to that E chord that we went to. And the reason I'm saying to do that is because look at this. Let's say we were playing a song in the key of G. Or using a G chord with the E shape from the Cage system. Now we can do that same thing. Right? So now I can use that as an intro or a turnaround for any song in any key. Now the one thing I couldn't do if I was playing in the key of G is I couldn't use that bass note because I couldn't fret. There's no way my hand's going to stretch. So you'd have to just sort of work without the bass note. So let's get back to the song. So for E, I'm sliding into that third string, and then I'm gonna pluck strings 1 and 2 with my middle and ring finger on my right hand. Now when I'm plucking that, at the same time, that's when I hit that first E bass note. So it's like this. Now I'm gonna hit another one. So that's the cadence, if you just get that. Now we slide our hand down. I keep hitting that same E bass note. The bass note does not change for this. Now watch this. Little embellishment off that chord by lifting my ring finger on the first string. And then we play our E chord. So you might just have to practice that. If you're new to fingerstyle, it's going to feel a little awkward, but I'm telling you, once you can get your fingers independent of each other, you'll be able to do this really easily. Now the other little thing I'll mention is I'm palm muting that a little bit, that bass note. I don't want it to sound like this. I could, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just trying to make it sound more like a bass player, and so or a bass guitar. And so to me, that sounds more like a bass guitar than letting the note ring out. So to do that, I use this part of my hand to rest on the strings back there. Now after that, there's a little follow-up to that turnaround. And you've heard this in other songs. And the easiest way to visualize what's going on here is to think of your E chord, right? And just look at strings 5 and 3 from your E chord and slide that up 1, 2, 3 frets. And we're just gonna play strings 5 and 3. I'm making that same E chord shape here, but I'm gonna pluck both strings 5 and 3 at the same time, and then I'm gonna come up here and hit the open 1 string. So it's like this. Right? So you can hear that. Now you do not need your ring finger down for that note, so you can take that away. But I just wanted to show you that E shape in there just to help you kind of remember this if you want to use it going forward. And you can do little things like sliding into it, little hammer-ons for that last note. And then I walked it up to the 5 chord, which is our B7. And I came up open 5th string and then 1st fret, 2nd fret on the 5th string with my middle finger so that these fingers can fall into place and make the B7 chord. All right, so now that we've got the intro out of the way, we go right into what would be like the verse. And I played. So you can hear that bass note. It's just on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're gonna play some notes around that. So we're gonna start with this. Now for this is a little harmonized third. I'm going to show you what I'm doing, and then once you can see this, it'll totally illuminate. You'll be able to use this anytime you want. So ring fingers on the 5th fret, 4th string, index fingers on the 3rd fret, 3rd string. We're starting there, which is a half step down, and then we're going to slide it up to here. Now, as soon as I slide into place, that's where my thumb goes down on the E string, like this. That's the 1 of the next measure. Okay, so what is this? Where are we at? Let's look at this. I'm playing my E chord right now using the C shape. This is from the Cage system. Oh yeah, there's the little triad, which is a little triangle like your D shape. And then, so you can see that inside of that, if I just looked at strings 4 and 3, I've got that harmonized to 3rd, and that's where that lives. It lives inside of that chord shape. So in my head, I was just thinking about chords. And you're like, where's the next chord? So I slid into it, and then went back down like, and then watch this. So my middle finger goes down on that 5th fret 2nd string, which is just that triad. It's the inside of that C chord shape. It's my E chord inside of the C shape. Now watch this. So this is just leaving chordville for a second and going back into just minor pentatonic scale. So I know I've got my minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 for the key of E right here. Right? So that's kind of where I went mentally, even though when I did that, that's actually in my major pentatonic scale. I'm blending the two in this one spot. But the key is keeping that bass note going while you're playing these little lead lines like. So what you want to do, and I'll drive us all crazy, including myself here, if I break this down and go note for every little bit. But I want you to just take any of these parts, any of these little sections, and just loop them. That's how I learned to do it. I would take this phrase and just over and over again with the thumb happening. It never breaks. Find a tempo that's comfortable for you and work on that phrase. But these notes, you can see where they're coming from now, right? Minor pentatonic scale, major pentatonic scale. So then after that, I came right back up to the thing that we started with, right? The beginning of this verse anyway, coming up to the C shape from my E chord. So it's, and we did that. We've already done these same notes. So that's 5th fret, 2nd string. Now watch this. You can hear the flat 7 happening, right? The E7, which is signaling the fact that we're about to go to the 4 chord. We're about to get some resolve. That was creating tension, but now it needs to go somewhere. It needs to relieve that tension. So we go into the A. And to do that little walk down, I'm just playing strings 1 and 2. I'm using my middle finger and ring finger to pluck that. And my middle finger goes down from the 5th fret to the 4th fret. Listen to that dissonance. And then down to the 3rd fret. And that note is the flat 7. And I just know that. This is one of those things you have to kind of memorize where your flat 7s are in the 5 different shapes of the cage system. So I know that if I'm playing an E chord and I want to make an E7, I can put my pinky down on that 3rd fret, 2nd string to get the flat 7 sound. So I knew that note was there. So I was just getting to that note. You don't need to make a big full 6-string chord, you just need a couple of notes. And then that gets us to the 4 chord. To play that little little pickup, I hit the open 6th string, do a slide from the 2nd fret to the 4th fret with my ring finger on the 6th string. And then we go up with our thumb. Now we're switching our bass note to the 5th string, the open 5th string. To represent our A chord. And now for that A chord, that's the first part. And what I'm doing, I'm playing my A chord in first position, but I'm just playing strings 5, 4, and 3, like that. And then, so I've got that for the A. I reach up here and hit the 4th fret, 4th string with my ring finger, and you can use your pinky or your ring finger to stretch one more and hit this 5th fret, 4th string. But remember, we're only playing strings 5, 4, and 3. So we have that, and then that's sort of a call, and then the response. Isn't that cool? A little bit country sounding there. To play that, I'm barring the first 4 strings on the 5th fret. I'm still playing strings 5, 4, and 3. So I hit that open A, and I do this hammer on with my middle finger to the 6th fret, 3rd string. But I'm playing, I've got the bar there hitting the 5th fret, 4th string along with it. So it's like, and then I'm gonna bar the first 4 strings on the 7th fret, only playing strings 4 and 3 though. So it's like that. So isn't that cool? So then we have, so I came up here and hit this 5th fret 2nd string, and that's our E note. That's going to pull us back into the E. So it's like this. Hear how it switches? I hit the E note ahead of the beat just a little bit because I'm still using my thumb on the 5th string for the A note. And then watch this. So now we're back to the E part of the song, right? You can hear it. All right, so we're coming out of the A to the E. Now watch this. We're gonna play. Now notice my thumb kind of followed that lick there. Now I wasn't super independent. That's okay. Sometimes if you listen to Lightning Hopkins or whoever your favorite like sort of fingerstyle picker is, you'll hear them doing their own thing sometimes. Now if I wanted to do it right on the beat with my thumb, it would be like. But sometimes you can follow the note. Anyway, what I'm doing there is I'm playing between the 5th fret and the 7th fret on that 2nd string. Those are the notes that I'm playing. Remember, we're playing over the E chord. And I'm thinking about my E major pentatonic scale pattern 4, that's where I'm at, or the E chord using the C shape, if we're just thinking chord shapes. That's the little neighborhood I'm in. So doing some half bends there on that 7th fret 2nd string. Then I came to that 7th fret 1st string, watch this. So this gets me back down into the 1st position here. Right, then that's one of the beautiful things that you can do when you've got that, you're not having to fret that bass note. It allows me to jump really quickly from one position, one hand position, down into the other. So it's from that 7th fret 1st string down to the 3rd fret 1st string with a half bend there. So it's like, that's the timing of it with the bass. And then 2nd fret 2nd string, back to my open 1st string and open 6th string. So it's like this. And then I hit strings 1 and 2 together, and then I concluded that with that bass note. And that's a little bit tricky because you're kind of getting 2 different times going there. But if you slow it down, and just loop it until you can get the cadence of it, the feel. And then we go to the B7, and to get to that, I went. Just played, notice my left hand just held down the chord. So just make your B7 chord, add your pinky to the 2nd fret 1st string, add that note in there, and we're gonna walk up like this. Actually, it starts with me hitting the open strings 3 and 4. Sometimes I do that, it's more of a rhythmic thing. That's actually kind of incorrect in terms of scale or whatever, but it happens just for a moment, and it gives it a rhythmic thing. So it's like, I know it sounds kind of weird when you hear it like that, but I think that's what I did. That's what I'll put in the tab anyway. So it's that, open 5th string, 1st, 2nd. Now from here, notice I've got my thumb independent again, playing on the beat. Just practice looping that. Then the song goes from the 5 chord, which is our B7, back to our 4 chord, which is our A. And I'm going to play an A7 right here. This is an A7 you've played before in 1st position. And watch this. If you see that chord shape, and then this lick will make perfect sense. I'm just kind of hitting the notes of the chord anyway. So it's a little half bend on that 3rd fret 1st string, and then the open 1st string, there's that 2nd fret 2nd string again. So this would be like your E minor pentatonic scale. This would be like your E major pentatonic. So I'm blending those two right here. Now put the bass note in with it. So it's like you start with a bass note, it's like this. So practice looping that. You can do it over and over again. Then we come out of the 4 chord, which is our A, and we go right back to the 1 chord, which is our E. Notice I went back to the E chord here, and then I followed it up with that same little intro. Same little walk down that we did. That's that same thing where we use that E shape, but we're only playing strings 5 and 3. You don't need your ring finger down though. And then walk up to your B7, that's your 5 chord, and now we're ready to start the whole thing again. And that's where we're gonna end this part 1 video, and you can go through the same pattern of chords but with different ideas in the part 2 video. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson and you got something out of it. Leave a comment if this has been groundbreaking for you, or if you've got had any light bulbs or anything that you hadn't realized before, or you're seeing the fretboard in a way that you haven't before. That always helps me a lot, even if you just liked it and thought that was a cool song or whatever. I always appreciate that, and it sort of helps me know that I'm on the right track. If you've got questions or something isn't clear, leave questions and comments on those things too, because I do read through all of them. All right, we'll see you in part 2 where we'll go over the second half.